Hello, I'm here with Laura Sen, the former CEO and chair of BJ's Discount Club, a club that has over 5 million members and 10 billion of revenues. Laura, thanks very much for being with us here today. What we want to talk about is the 3 essential traits, skills that a CFO should have to get credibility with the CEO.
Yes, I absolutely believe that the CFO should have a seat at the table with the rest of the executive management team. And I know some CFOs don't feel like they do.
Right.
So, how do I see that being able to happen? And without a doubt, the table stakes for a CFO in any organization, in my view, really is quality.
Right.
What is the quality of the work that gets done by the finance division? That starts with planning. Obviously, it moves on to reporting and goes on to forecasting. So those 3 critical functions that finance owns have to be have credibility.
Yes.
With the CEO and the organization.
Right.
And I know there are a tremendous amount of mechanics that go into that. And having one version of the truth, as we used to
Yes.
say, is not easy.
Right.
You're obviously super experienced in this. And I respect the trade, if you will. But what would you say about that?
So having that baseline of getting your numbers accurate and your reported numbers accurate, and then having forecasts that are accurate will build credibility and trust with the CEO. And the opposite is true.
Right, of course.
You can lose that credibility because of inaccuracies and
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say timeliness goes along with accuracy. And certainly the organization, in particular the CEO, is going to use the information to make decisions.
Right.
To figure out what's going on with the expense side of the business, what's going on with the revenue side of the business, what's going on with the profitability side of the business, inventory, and so on. So, it's important. And without that, your seat at the table is not going to be as solid as it should be. And one of the things I know we've talked about, which is not easy, is how do you get the resources to be as timely and accurate as you really need to be. And I would say that that's a longer conversation, but it's something that I understand to be critical for the CFO to be successful.
Right. And we think we get this fairly accurate, even baseline reporting. But a recent survey with Deloitte showed that 26% of the respondents said the numbers their CFO provides are not accurate. So 26% is a big number.
It's a huge number.
And so establishing that accuracy is fundamental.
Right. And that sounds kind of like dull, but it has to be done. That's kind of the baseline. I would say second, for me, the CFO should have a very deep understanding, and I'm talking about spending time in the business units with the professionals there and understanding what they do on a day-to-day basis, what goes into sales and marketing, what goes into IT, what goes into HR, what goes into operations. I feel like without that, it's hard for the CFO to really understand more than the numbers, and we know the numbers tell the story. But let's remember that the story is what goes on in the business.
Right.
And once that happens, and the people who run the business units understand that the CFO and his or her team have deep interest and understanding and I guess knowledge that can support and help them, it becomes a whole different ballgame.
Right. And so the CFO and the CFO's team needs to engage with the business and truly come alongside. And we talked about relationship there, right? To be able to engage with the business, learn the business, because you have to be invited in. You can't go forcing doors open.
Right.
And so that relationship you were talking about before.
Right, and I think that when you go and sit down, in our case it might be even if you go and stand in a club for a day and see what they do in receiving, and see what they do at the front end, and see what they do in the cash office, and see what they do in loss prevention. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame than just saying, well, their shrink was 1.5%. Right? But what does it all look like, and how can we think about this in ways that will help the business, right?
Right. Fantastic. And then building on top of that.
Well, that's the holy grail, is really when the CFO has the timeliness, accuracy, and ability to see trends, has the relationships and understanding with the business. How does that CFO become the trusted advisor on strategy? What can he or she see and help with from a financial perspective that really informs how are we going to think about the big decisions, how are we going to think about direction, how are we going to think about where we're going to take the business to maximize the value for all the stakeholders, right?
Right. So having a view of the enterprise, in the wider context of the environment, understanding competition, really helping
absolutely.
the CEO. And we talked about how the CFO brings another perspective. And you find that useful, right?
Well, I think that the CFO can always see what the controls of the business are or are not at the operating level. And that tends to give the finance division a perspective of, how do we fix those things?
Right.
And we should fix those things.
Yeah.
But let's dig down to root cause, let's dig down to process, let's dig down to how can we help? And then all of a sudden it becomes a different conversation. Not this is what you did wrong or can do better, but this is how we can help you do it better.
Right. Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate those insights. And we talked about getting the baseline right, having your numbers absolutely accurate, having your forecasts accurate, and then having relationships with the business that really build partnerships, and finally offering those insights in a way which truly helps the business. And I just want to draw your attention to the CGMA resources around collaboration skills, leadership skills, things like how do you motivate your team, how do you build your team, and nurturing talent. We are really focused a lot, as we said before, on technology, on the technical skills.
Right. But the soft skills are what's going to make you and your finance team very successful within the business.
Right.
How do you lead? How do you offer up those insights? And how do you add value, right? I mean, all these things are pretty easy to say, but not that easy to do. And I think that, it seems like your organization really has a lot to offer in that way.
Exactly. And so you need to have a structured way to approach it. It doesn't happen by accident.
Absolutely not. No, you got to go do it.
Exactly. Thanks very much, Laura,
Thank
for
you.
being
It's
with
been
us.
a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.